Hello fellow adventurers and collectors, Filmaholic here. On today's FRAFPU, we're going to be going over my recent action figure pickups, and as a matter of fact, we're going to be starting off with something different and a little bit of a nod to Logic Blaster. I went to the dollar store recently and I came across this Hot Wheels Land Rover, or Range Rover rather, and yeah, it was a nice surprise. I wasn't anticipating finding this, let alone Hot Wheels in general, because I always associate Matchbox with dollar stores, but not Hot Wheels, but it appears that's changing with the times. So, you know, I'm not that big into diecast cars, but if I see a Range Rover or a Defender, I try to pick it up just to add to my collection, just to have some representation of that vehicle. But yeah, I do have the red one. The red one was originally in my collection before, and it was interesting to see this different tampo on it. Next up, I found another project that I'm going to start, and it just so happened to be a Damn Toys Resident Evil Claire head. Now, I did want the figure, but at the same time, I was not looking to spend the asking price, which was around $250, almost $300. Personally, it just didn't seem right. I understand there was a lot of new tooling involved in terms of making that body, but at the same time, it's just, with the cost of everything else going on, it just was not worth it. So I was patient and waited until I could find a head, and lo and behold, I was able to find one. And even at that, I found one at a good price. So this one is going to be worked on in the future. Definitely don't have any plans to make a Claire per se, but you know, try to make a different character out of it. So it's a nice sculpt, although I feel like it's a little bit chubby in the cheeks, in the sense that it doesn't look too much like the actress that was Claire, but I could be misremembering. I haven't played that game in a while, but it's a nice sculpt overall, and it has a nice subtle paint job to it, just like the Leon did. Now, I wanted to bring up this because it was mentioned in a comment that I had on my World Box review. You know, there's that little piece that I had mentioned, and going back and forth, some theorize that it's put underneath the chest because there is a spot where that can connect into, and I put it underneath the one in Claire, and you can kind of see that it just juts out the chest, the collarbone, and I guess that's supposed to make it look different. I'm not entirely sure. Even now, as you can see here with Chun-Li, it's straight down, whereas with Claire, it juts out a little bit more, and I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this piece is still. So you leave your thoughts down in the comments. Outside of that, this is how it looks, and in my collection I plan on not using that piece because, again, it just looks weird, and even then I'm not sure if it's going to be damaging the piece on top. So yeah, weird oddity that I figured I'd touch on. So because you see that little circular bit, that's what connects to a little nub on the inside of that torso piece or the chest piece, and unless I put it in wrong, this is how it looks. And again, to me, it's not worth putting in there at the risk of misshaping that chest piece. So I took it out after I shot this just because I didn't want to take that risk. I do plan on getting the AT-201 body to kind of put this Claire or Lara Croft head that I have on it. Next up, I ordered a uniform set. I typically don't just buy single uniforms because one is just not cost effective, but I've had this idea to upgrade my Titanfall pilot, and this one just kind of came together as I was looking on eBay. One of my favorite military outfits is the Gorka suit, typically used in snipers and reconnaissance units, but to me, I like that uniform, and if there's one piece of military gear I'd buy that jacket. So I figured I'd use that for my Titanfall pilot. And I've been reworking that character for so long that, you know, it's just something I've really knuckled down and try to hone in this time around. So we'll get to that later. Next up, there was this, again, right place, right time listing where I think it was perfect for my Titanfall pilot. And as you'll see here, it came with a couple other weapons, which is always nice, but again, I may have spent a little bit too much on this, admittedly, but seeing it now, I think it was worth it, and we'll get there as we go along here. But what came in the listing was 2 rifles and 1 like missile launcher, I would assume. I'm not entirely sure. But here's the first weapon. I don't recognize it from any of the other manufacturers. It's one solid piece. It's not metal per se, and it's got some notches in the railing for some attachments. So it's a solid enough gun, but at the same time I just don't know where it came from. So if you have an idea as to where it came from, feel free to leave it in the comments below. But like I said, it's always good to have extra weapons, so I wasn't too necessarily bent out of shape for getting that. But of course, this is the missile launcher that I had mentioned. I have one of these before, but this is from a different manufacturer, and yeah, I typically don't use these outside of, you know, set dressing on my dioramas. But yeah. Next up is what I got this list. I purchased this slot for, essentially. One of my favorite G.I. Joe villains is the Cobra Viper, and his rifle is my favorite G.I. Joe rifle, so I was excited to see this, and having it in hand, it's definitely well detailed, and I wish I had like 10 of these, because I would put every single military guy in with one of these, because it just looks so cool. And surprisingly enough, there's a lot of paint detail on this that I didn't anticipate, like the residue on the top of the muzzle there. So yeah, unfortunately it doesn't have any removable magazines, but that's fine with me. It makes it more solid. And here is the final result, and not to toot my own horn, I really do like the look of this, and this is the few times where I actually think I knocked it out of the park, because it's a combination of the uniform, the head, and just the general pieces that I put on it. I just think it looks fantastic, and I'm excited to do some photos with this guy, and I'm tempted to make a story with him. You know, he's just that cool, and I wish I had more of these heads as well. It's just one of those things where it's too expensive to get multiples of, so I'm happy to at least have one. So if you're unfamiliar with this is the helmet itself is from a video game called Titanfall, and it was a release by 3-0 several years back, and that figure itself is kind of hard to come by, let alone for a good price. So yeah, I got this through someone on Instagram. It wasn't complete, but I figured I knew I was going to actually kitbash it at some point, so that's how I ended up getting this in my collection. And it's nice to actually have them complete. You know, a lot of my stuff is, you know, modular. I'll take things from one kitbash and move it to the next, but this guy I definitely think is set as he is. I might end up changing the chest rig, but that's about it. I really do I think it all works. You know, it's just one of those things that, you know, fit together personally. You know, I wish the boots didn't break. These are my favorite boots, but I've been using them in several projects, and over the years the durability isn't there anymore, so I might have to replace those at some point. But yeah, there are some pieces from the 3-0 figure, but most of it is damn toys, maybe some 21st century toys, I'm not entirely sure, but a lot of it is, you know, damn toys, because that just so happens to be the company that I trust the most in terms of military gear. But yeah, this is probably the kitbash of the year, and I'm confident in saying that. You know, I'm sure there's going to be surprises towards the end of the year, but right now this is my favorite figure of 2023. And yeah, I just going to be gushing about this figure for the next few months, so you'll definitely see him in future videos. So yeah, with that said, I appreciate you guys checking this video out. The next video, I'm currently working on the lighting video. It's taking a lot longer than I anticipated, but yeah, I appreciate you guys checking this video out. If you feel so inclined, please like, comment, and or subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. I will catch you all next time.